back, people. We are back. Your favorite, and I never lie when I said this, and I've said this a million times. Your favorite sports podcast roaming the airwaves, Rolling with Ramos, is back. I happen to be the one to hold the last name Ramos. I would like to specifically thank my daddy for that one, Mike Ramos in heaven. I hope you enjoyed your birthday. It was hard without you, but I hope you enjoyed it last weekend. Episode 108. Woo! Tristan, 108 episodes. I'm getting, it's a long ass number to keep longly saying. That ain't a word. But I'm getting sick of saying it. But it's so lovely to say. My partner in crime, you just heard him talking. I'm nothing without him. I don't care if you hear my name. I don't care if you hear my voice. Tristan, hello, episode 108.
Episode 108, what's going on? Glad to see everybody. Glad to be on the live. It's definitely going to be a very interesting episode because we got a lot to talk about. A lot of things happened in the past week or so that's very interesting. We're on championship weekend coming up, so it's going to be a good show.
The fella that you see on the screen, whose background looks so eloquently better than either one of us. And we said that off the record. Next time you come on here, baby, I will upstage you. Anyway, he is a sports reporter for ESPN West Palm, WPTV, and Fox 29, joining us from some weather that's better than the ones we experiencing up north in Baltimore and DMV. I'm jealous. Say hello to Florida. And one guy that I know wears one hell of a tie and suit, Theo Dorsey, my NABJ brother. You are rolling with Ramos. Welcome.
I am, and I'm so blessed and honored to be doing so. And I'm sorry I couldn't pull out the suit and tie tonight. As you know, I'm in between stories trying to shoot stuff here and there, so I got the polo on. But if I'm ever invited back, I'm pulling out my best suit and tie for you.
It gets so bad at these conventions that they take pictures of each other's suits together so they can see the socks and the tie.
Oh, yeah.
So that they can compete at the damn. We're supposed to be at the convention. They're competing who has the best suit at the damn convention. Nothing like a black man in a suit. My kings, y'all look so great. Episode 108. We taking it back to the numbers game here. Emphasis on the number 8. Of course, we originally went with Kobe to go number 8, the Mamba edition. This guy, Tristan, you should know him very well. We know him very well. He bought a title to DC. A Russian professional ice hockey winger and captain of the Washington Capitals of the National Hockey League. We often referred to him as Ovi, or the Great 8. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest ice hockey players of all time. Rolling with Ramos, episode 108. The Alexander Ovechkin edition.
Great 8.
Great 8. All right, guys, let's get into this thing. Let's start in the NBA. Last night, if you were watching MLK Day and the games that preceded that and the coverage that preceded that, only TNT can do that. They're the only ones that can do it and do it well. But anyways, Nets 125, Bucks 123. One guy that was there, 41 minutes, 6 rebounds, 12 assists, 34 points. We know what he can do well, even if he's looking like a donut at the present time. Lose those pounds, baby. James Harden. This is what he done last night. And before that happened, the news last week. Let's go back, shall we? Because I know you heard it from everybody else, but you didn't hear it from us yet. So here we go. The Rockets send James Harden to the Nets in a blockbuster trade, 4-team trade that also involved the Pacers and Cavaliers completing the unhappy Stars exit from Houston and setting up a potential super team in Brooklyn. Center Jared Allen and forward Taurean Prince are headed from the Nets to the Cavaliers, while the Rockets receive Cleveland guard Dante Elam and Brooklyn forward Rodions Kuries. Houston also receives 3 unprotected first-round picks from Brooklyn in 2022, 2024, and 2026, plus pick swaps in 2021, 23, 25, and 27. The Rockets also get Cleveland's 2022 first-round pick via the Milwaukee Bucks, and Houston is sending a 2023 second-round pick to the Pacers. Brooklyn also gets a 2024 second-round pick from the Cavaliers. The trade was agreed to after the Rockets opted to keep Harden away from last week. That will be Wednesday's practice, following the former MVP's comments that Tuesday that Houston isn't good enough to compete for a championship. Harden, who was unable to get the Rockets past the Western Conference Finals. That is one hell of a line. Unable to get them past the Western Conference Finals. Had remained quiet for months of reports that he was unhappy in Houston. First year Rockets head coach Stephen Silas called the drama surrounding Harden an all-around messed up situation. It is an all-around messed up situation. I'm with Shaq. You had everything you wanted, baby. They gave you everything you asked for. You had everything in the palm of your hands, and you're unhappy, and you had to go, and they did something to you. Fellas, we all know that my love for James Harden, I can't find it that well unless he's playing basketball. How did you feel? We asked you first, Theo, because you are the guest, literally, as I point to my home. You are the guest. How did you feel about James Harden going to Brooklyn? How do you feel? How has he been looking? Is this going to work?
I mean, in his first 2 games, he looks like the guy that is the 3-time reigning scoring champion. I mean, that's undeniable. But I do feel for the way that his Houston tenure ended because there's a lot of bad blood there. And when you think about what James Harden did for Houston since he came in 2013, all of the All-Star appearances, first-team All-NBAs, the scoring championships, the assist championship, we didn't get any real championships, but we weren't getting them before he got there. You know what I'm saying? So he did elevate the city to a certain level. He did fund a lot of strip clubs in a very major way, which the city will never lose any love for him in that avenue. So I think he was great for the city of Houston. I think he's going to be great on the Nets team. And he's an evolution. He's like a once in a generation basketball talent, especially in the offensive end. And I hate how his reputation had to end like that.
Speaking of reputation, you use a very important word. We all are we cannot never criticize him as a player, but right. You criticize him as far as his personality and his will to go further and past where he already is. Every year he doesn't get the MVP and he's crying a river like Justin Timberlake. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude. Don't you want to hoist MVP banners in the finals? Every time you have a chance to make it, it's Reggie Miller, and you turn around and go to that strip club that you eloquently put your funds in, and you go party with the Kardashian. We talk about it for 5 minutes, and then that's it. Because everyone just has accepted that that's what you do. You're just this regular season champ that doesn't get it done in the playoffs, but you can do so much more. The expectation level is so big. But this is what we do. We talk about his reputation, whether he cares or cares or not. But Theo, James Harden doesn't care. Or it doesn't seem like he cares now, does he?
Well, one thing I will say is the perception around him is he doesn't care about winning, right? If he really didn't care about winning, he could have stuck it out on this Houston team, shut up, played ball, kept raking in his millions of dollars, and won 45 games, got bounced in the first round. So we can at least say, we can acknowledge he does care about winning. He just might not prioritize it as much as LeBron James or Michael Jordan, which, I mean, there's few people in this world who do, right?
Or he can go somewhere else where it's everybody else's problem, but his and nobody's.
That's true.
Kristen, James Harden, you wanted to talk about this last week. I offered you a special. You never got back to me. But anyways, we're talking about it now.
I got busy.
24 hours a day. This game is, baby. Anyways. No, I understand. James Harden, the trade, how is he looking there for you? A lot of size issues that they kind of may have when you look at the game the other night.
So for me, okay, this is my thing about James Harden, right? It's like Theo said, generational talent. No one can talk about his game in a negative light. Like when we used to do pickup games, you know what I'm saying? And someone said that calls himself a walking bucket. Like, that's James Harden. He's literally a walking bucket. The moment he steps on the court, he's going to give you 30 if he feels like it. He's going to give you 40 if he's in a good mood. Like, that's how he is. You know what I'm saying? So no one can question that. But I do question his intangibles. I question his leadership. And I honestly feel that him going to Brooklyn, him forcing his way to go to Brooklyn was, I don't want to be the guy. it's he's like a almost like a Kyrie part two, except for Kyrie feels he's the guy, but he can't be the guy. So at the end of the day, with this Brooklyn team, everybody's looking at it like it's KD. Like whether it's successful or it fails, it still falls on Kevin Durant because arguably he's the best player in basketball. Some people still gonna say LeBron, but a lot of people say KD is the best player in basketball, and KD is a walk-in bucket. So we're at the end of the day, James Harden can kind of just freelance out there because he's got KD. I mean, you have no concerns. Like you just go play, and you're seeing it. And as great as he is, for me, it's always going to be that asterisk. Like, could you be the guy? It's one of the reasons why KD wanted to leave from Golden State because he realized, even though he was the two-time Finals MVP, that was still Steph Curry's culture. That was still Steph Curry's team. You know what I'm saying? And you had to join a team, and I'm not going to dig because Mikkel gets mad when I dig into it. But you had to dive into a team
that where else was he gonna go, man? I can't keep doing
I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. But all I'm saying is somebody of KD's caliber to do that, he knew that if he stayed there, that was always gonna, haunt him and be around him. Was just like, hey, you went to a team that had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. I mean, what more could you do? So him going to Brooklyn is say, look, I can lead this team. So for James Harden, I'm just like, Houston gave you everything that you could want. Anything that you wanted, you got. And you got them, but so far. But what's glaring is the so-called quote-unquote choking that you did in the playoffs when it really, really mattered. When we needed you to be the guy to drop 30, 40 to win the game, you would drop 17. Like that's not what we're used to from you. So when we see those kind of performances, it makes it kind of tough. But I like watching them with KD. I think it's beautiful basketball. I'm curious to see how it's going to look with Kyrie back in the fold because I don't see how you can have two ball dominant players like that in the backcourt. But, we'll see how it looks.
There's this meme floating around that I know you both have seen where that Fresh Prince episode when Will and Carlton were fighting over the ball.
Yeah.
Who takes the last shot, Theo and Tristan, in this Brooklyn team? If we say LeBron, Theo, is it time for Kevin Durant? Because not only do we have there's a lot of ball hogs on this team. There's a lot of two dominant ball hogs on this team. But it's also three completely different egos on this team as well. Every time you turn around, Harden and Durant are friends. They played against each other, but Harden couldn't even play Westbrook. That was supposed to be his friend. Now he's back with Harden. And then Kyrie is another ego, we'll talk about him in a second, another stratosphere. Mentally, Steve Nash is the coach. Everybody can coach in Brooklyn. Hell, I guess they're going to give me the job. So who takes this last shot? If you talk about LeBron, Theo, is it going to be up to Kevin Durant to kind of resurface his ego more inside and be that LeBron as to understand the bigger picture? If Kyrie or Harden has the bigger chance, give him the ball.
I would say I think the pecking order should be KD 1, Kyrie 2, Joe Harris 3, and James Harden 4. If we talk about taking the last shot, James Harden is another thing that we haven't even discussed yet. James Harden is one of the best facilitators and passers and offensive initiators in this league. I'm not saying don't put the ball in his hands. I'm just saying James Harden at the end of games, whether it's because he was worn down when he was playing with the Rockets and he ran the whole offense the whole game, or if it was because the moment gets to him, he's had a tendency to settle for bad shots. He's had a tendency to miss shots that he normally makes. In playoffs and in big moments, James Harden we've seen him fail too many times in the series versus the Spurs, in the series versus the Warriors. He's faded off at the end so many times in big moments. Whereas KD, we've seen it on the final stage, him step into LeBron's face and hit that shot in 2 separate occasions from the same spot. Kyrie, we saw him take down the 2016 greatest regular season team of all time with a jump shot, from outside. And he has the will and he has the ego and courage to take those kind of shots and make them. We haven't seen it from James Harden. I'm just saying, I talked all that good stuff about him earlier. I had to take him down a little bit, at least for that.
Yeah, you gave him the violin.
Hey, no lies detected though. No lies detected. Again, in the playoff series, and I had this discussion with people because people talk about, well, we've seen him crank 30 points and 45 points in the yeah, we've seen it. But when it mattered the most, when the game was on the line, when the series was on the line, he disappeared. I mean, it's just, I'm not making it up. Like, we look at it and we see that's what it is. Like, one of the more pressing ones was the series against Golden State with Chris Paul. When Chris Paul went out, it was like, okay, can you give us 2 games? James Harden, you can't give us 2 games without Chris Paul to make something happen. Like, those are moments that we're always gonna look at. And I think people are like wondering why we critique him. We critique when you're so great. We critique greatness. It's just like when we critique LeBron. We critique LeBron. Hey, LeBron missed a game-winning shot the other night, and they hammered LeBron as if he lost the championship. It's like, all right, it's a regular season game. It's not always going to fall, but you measure him in that standard that he should be the guy to make those shots. So we're going to do the same thing with you, James Harden, because you want to be in the MVP conversation every year. You think you should be winning the MVP every year. So we're going to treat you as such. I always felt like between James Harden and KD always got a pass as far as critiquing them when they come up short on a basketball court. I always felt like LeBron would get criticized so hard when he does something off in a basketball court, but KD and James Harden never got that kind of lash, and I never understood why. And so, James Harden, I'm looking at you, bro, like, because I think you're great, because I expect that from you, I'm going to critique you as such.
I'm totally with you. I don't think he's put in the same light as other stars in the NBA. I don't think he gets that same criticism, whether it's regular season or the playoffs. You was there 8 seasons, dog. You had that job, Tommy, for 8 seasons.
Yeah, like you didn't make a finals appearance
job in the playoffs for 8 seasons. It didn't go down. And we have yet to and it took to the end of his time there for us to pay for everybody else. I was paying attention to everybody else.
You was on this hill by yourself.
To everybody, it finally clicked that James Harden may not be what he is what we think he is, but he doesn't always do what we think he is. But let's mosey on down to his teammate, because in other Nets news, for people that don't want to be in the media and don't do it for the limelight, as they say, they gave us a lot to talk about in Brooklyn. Shout out to being in New York. You thought you weren't going to be a part of the media. You're in the capital of the world. Suck it up. Anyway, Kyrie Irving was listed as questionable before last night's game against the Bucks. Of course, he did not play. This after missing 6 games. It's the first time since January 5th that his status leaves room for him to be available to play. The Brooklyn Nets star bought a house in other news for the family of George Floyd. This according to former NBA player Steven Jackson. Jackson, who was a close friend of the late Floyd, revealed on the Rematch podcast that Irving, along with the other celebrities, had reached out to help Floyd's family. Kyrie Irving brought them a house. Lil Wayne's manager bought them a Mercedes-Benz. Barbara Streisand gave them stock in Disney. Jackson said sources told Mark J. Spears of the Undefeated that Irving gave the family the money for the house about 5 or 6 months ago. A tweet by Malika Andrews today says Kyrie Irving apologizes to fans he disappointed by not playing. I am back. I am happy to be back. We got some great pieces and we move on, and I let my actions and my game speak for itself like I planned on doing. I just needed a pause. If I'm taking a personal, was ever taking a personal, it has a face in Kyrie Irving. He comes out and he says, I just needed a break, mental health. So on one end, Theo, it looks as though, why didn't you say, you don't owe us anything? You don't owe us. Nobody owes anybody anything. Mental health, we talk about everything that's going on, social injustice, what is doing this inauguration, Trump stuff. I mean, they broke in the damn Capitol, for God's sake. There's so much going on in this country. It's like 2020 just gave 2021 the rule book and said, hey, do your thing. Keep going. But anyways, we get it. There's so much going on in this country. But with the platform that he has, something needed to be said. He comes out with this. Now we understand why he needed off. He looks a little worn out. It's reports last week, Tristan, we talked about maybe he needs to take some time off. Maybe he needs to restore himself. Maybe he needs to retire. But we also see a guy that knows that he can turn the light switch on and off. Is it going to be that easy? And how do you feel about that pause?
Me or Tristan?
You
now
first.
go ahead, Theo.
Okay. Well, I'll say first things first. Kyrie Irving, as much as I will appreciate him, and nobody's criticizing him as a person when it comes to the philanthropy or how much he cares about, social injustices and all of that. Obviously, we've seen from his actions and some of his words. Okay, Kyrie Irving he's often has a very condescending tone, as if he knows something that the rest of us don't know. He's one of those brothers that I consider fake deep, and he loves to lean on that fake deepness a lot. And Kyrie Irving also is a guy who fakes like he does not want the limelight. He fakes like he doesn't want attention, all while craving and doing things for attention. And I think a lot of what he does is contradictory. Like he'll say, "Oh, I don't want this, that, and third." Then he hops on the IG Live or whatever that was with KD, spewing out all kind of stuff, thinking that the media is not going to pick that up, and then criticize the media for talking about non-basketball things when you're talking. A lot of that. So he contradicts himself all the time, and it's very annoying as a person who sits there and has to like consume it and talk about it because we're in sports media. But beyond all of that, he is, and I think all of that gets in the way of the fact that he is a really, really great offensive basketball player and an engine that can help this Nets team like take it to another level, especially when you got James Harden and KD there. Do I think? Obviously, like we've been saying from the jump, even before James Harden was thrown into the mix, because this is now the island of misfit toys of guys who just can't fit in, fitting out. Do I think that talent-wise, they probably have the best roster now because of how top-heavy it is? Yes. But they also have the most combustible roster because you don't know. Like, yes, like you said, mental health is important, and I'm not saying this like lightly. But if this happened with Kyrie now, the things that quote unquote caused him to feel that way aren't going anywhere. Like these things can continue to happen through the season. So he is a question mark. James Harden, how bought in is he? How bought in is he to get to get in shape? Kevin Durant, he's a very moody dude. Like as great as he is he going to start feeling like he felt with the Warriors because he felt like he couldn't say he was the best because he had all of that help? Well, he's got all that help all over again. Just because he was there first doesn't change that he has all the help. So it's like, are these dudes mentally going to be there in June? Or could we see them having a weird fallout like the Clippers did in the playoffs against the Nuggets?
Can we see them not liking each other? And, everybody hasn't paid attention to this. Both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant have not played in a year. So we don't even know. Right. We're watching them for the first time in a long time. And now we have to watch them together where they haven't been together and we don't know them together. And Theo, I feel disrespected because through your whole spill about Kyrie Irving, which was so ultra true, your adequate description of him made me look at the female gender, my gender, and think, damn, is that how we are? How we don't know what we want, but then we know what you want. I'm not mad at you. I'm really mad at you. Tristan, what's going on?
That's funny.
I am what I am, and it's all that I am. What can I say?
Hey, listen. Me and Theo being men, we're gonna be wise and plead the fifth on that answer.
Oh, get out of here!
I ain't got nothing to say.
We're gonna plead the fifth. We're gonna plead the fifth on that. No, everything that Theo said is correct with Kyrie. It's just like we talked about last week. What frustrates me is not what he does, because his heart's in the right place. He's doing the right thing. He's doing the things that you want to see someone with his platform do for the people. Like, all power to you, Kyrie. I'm not mad at that at all.
Stage and all, baby.
I just want to see you play basketball, bro. Like, why can't you have it both ways, bro? Like, we see LeBron opened an entire school while playing basketball. He's the main one. He talks about every single social injustice that's out there, and he still went and won a championship. Like, We want you to be able to do it all, Kyrie. And I feel like, especially being in Brooklyn, you think that the brass of Brooklyn is not going to let you be who you are? Like, come on, man. Like, they're going to embrace it, but you got to let them and allow yourself to do it. I still feel we McKellen and I talked about it before we got on here. I still think Kyrie needs to retire. I think he just needs a year. Just take a break and go do whatever your conscience is telling you to do. Go do that, and then come back when you're raring to go. I still feel like you need a break, because what's to say they're in the middle of the season and so he's gonna go on sabbatical again? Like, because right now that's how it's looking. Like, Brooklyn, y'all just let him go on this sabbatical. Now all of a sudden he's ready to come back and play, and it's like everything's all good. No, man, we're trying to get a chip. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got your money. Kevin Durant got his money. James Harden got his money. There are players on that team that's like, look, man, I'm trying to earn my check too. I'm trying to do my thing, and I can't maximize what I do if you're not on the floor. It's simple as that. So I just feel like if you're going to be all in, be all in. No one is criticizing what you're doing on the outside. I think it's beautiful. But if you're going to be all in, you got these people paying you $30-something million to play this game, then be all in and play, man. Because when you play, you're great. You're great. It's not like you're good or average. You're great. But they say the best ability is availability. We need to see you on the court.
What is this, Najee Ramba or something? I'm totally confused. And the irony in this is that we're actually telling the basketball player, we're telling the athlete to shut up and dribble now. I get it. Just shut up and play basketball
and that's
now.
what I hate. That's what I hate.
And it's hard to do that because just like Jamil said a week ago when we had her on, we thought that coming back to playing basketball was going to distract and stop it. It's keeping it going, but play, fellas, last question. Before the season, Kevin Durant makes a statement that everybody can play, that everybody can coach the team. I can be a coach. They can be a coach. Kyrie Irving agreed with that too. I don't know if they share the same brain at times that, hey, one day the earth is flat, one day is round. But where does this put Steve Nash? Because it looks like he's out of control a little bit. Was he the right guy for this job? It was already bad speculation coming in.
I would say, it's the toughest coaching job right now that that I can think of in the NBA. Like, because of the pressures of having the best roster, and then you have three, again, of the most combustible NBA players in one locker room who are going to butt heads, and you have a more experienced NBA head coach as your assistant, who obviously is your guy, so he's going to help you out, but he's also right over your shoulder as the more experienced person who can handle these things. So how much power and how much respect, how much power do you actually have, and how much do the players actually respect you as the voice? I think it's a very difficult thing for us to be able to, especially from the outside, see. I really do wonder what that's like from the inside, because it don't feel like Steve Nash is even in control of where he gets to sit, let alone what the players get to do on the court.
No.
An assistant coach who they thought should have had that job.
I think the easiest portion of this job right now is when they play. Because what are you going to tell KD and James Harden to do? These got two of the better basketball IQs in the game. What are you going to tell them to do? They're going to know everything going on the floor. So that's probably his easiest thing to do right now. But managing Kyrie, managing all the stuff outside of the court, that's the challenge right there. And I feel for him, because whether it's a good season or a bad season, at times I forget that he's there. I forget that he's the coach. Honestly, so it's just I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Remember when we used to talk about Coach K and him having Zion, and it's just having this talent that already knows what it's supposed to do, but I don't know how to coach it, and I can't figure it out. This is what we're looking at with Steve Nash.
Yeah, we definitely said it. We said it was too much talent, and Coach K didn't know how to maximize it. Yeah. And it's hard to say because it's Coach K, but if he really didn't know how to maximize it in its full potential, there's no reason that they shouldn't have won a championship before leaving. But he just didn't know how to maximize it to make it a team.
That's real. Because they had a squad.
They had a squad, but it was too much. Sometimes, when you get too much candy, as good as it tastes, it don't feel so good in that stomach when you get too much. Too much sweet ain't good for you, and that's really what's happening. And we're hoping that it doesn't happen to Steve Nash there in Brooklyn.
Speaking of the college game, we go to college football next, and again, as we say this, there is another coach that got a job before Eric Bieniemy, and this guy wasn't even a national, and this dude wasn't even a National Football League coming from college. This is a problem, and we're going to and if you think I heard some people saying we're dragging Bieniemy's name. No, we're not dragging his name. We're making you pay attention to what you have not done yet. Anyways, in college football news, and this is where we give you your minute, Tristan. Theo, join him in his minute because it's college football in a minute. Urban Meyer has agreed to a contract to coach the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has won college national championships at Florida and Ohio State, but also retired twice, citing family and health reasons. He is the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Meyer, who is 56, last coach in 2018 and has been working for the Ohio State Athletic Department, as well as being an analyst for Fox College Football broadcast. His record in 17 seasons as a head coach is 187-32. He also led coaching after Florida's 2010 season, returning in 2012. I'm ready to coach the Jacksonville Jaguars, Meyer said in a statement. Jacksonville has had an enthusiastic fan base, and the fans deserve a winning team with upcoming opportunities in the NFL draft and strong support from ownership. The Jaguars are well positioned to become competitive. I've analyzed this decision from every angle. The time is right in Jacksonville, and the time is right for me to return to coaching. I'm excited about the future of this organization and our long-term prospect for success. Meyer's going back to Florida. This is the time as a coach that he feels is like it's time for him to be in the National Football League. Same old question all the time. We've seen the hardballs do it a whole bunch of times. Will college royalty transcend to professional legacies? Or is it too early to tell?
Here's my thing with the Urban Meyer hire. Culturally, it's good for the Jaguars because you got them Florida fans down there. Because right now, Tampa Bay owns all of Florida with Tom Brady being down there. Tampa Bay is the team everybody watching in Florida. But now you got like basically a folk hero in Urban Meyer from his days being at Florida with Tim Tebow. You got him now, coaching again in Florida. So on that aspect is good. Here's where it's a little tricky. And I'm gonna say it here. Do not be surprised if Justin Fields is taking number one over Trevor Lawrence. Just don't be shocked. Don't be shocked at all. Based on some stuff that I read and some stuff I heard from some friends of mine down in Florida, don't be surprised if Justin Fields end up being the number one pick. That's all I'm gonna say on that part. But looking at Urban Meyer, one thing with him, and it was the same thing with Nick Saban, I think that's why Nick Saban struggled when he went to Miami, took the Miami job, is the sense of control. There's levels to this in the NFL. You got your coach, you got your GM, you got your president of personnel, then you got your owner. In college, you are the judge and jury as the head coach in college football. And Urban Meyer has always had full control, always have full autonomy. As far as I know, that's what they're going to give him, but it's not set in stone. So I'm looking at it like, can he be okay with working in the systems of the NFL? Can he be okay with working with grown men instead of kids that are so impressionable because it's like, oh my God, you're the great Urban Meyer. Where in football, you're like, I don't care who you are, I'm making $15 million. Like, can you shift into that? Because that was something Nick Saban had a hard time doing. He tried to coach grown men as if they were kids. And he's like, whoa, who are you talking to? You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's so successful down in Alabama for him, because it's kids. 18, 19, 20-year-old people listening to this guy that's got now 6 championships. Like it's It's easy to listen to him in that regard. So in the NFL, it's a whole nother level. So he said all the right things in his press conference. I'm pretty sure he's going to do his due diligence. But again, I'm very interested to see who's going to be the first quarterback taken off the board. Because I'm telling you, he has a thing that he likes his guys. He likes his guys. And even though he saw Trevor Lawrence, he don't really know him, but he knows Justin Fields, and he knows what Justin Fields can do. So I'm just trying to say, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if he ends up being that pick. I'm telling you.
Do you agree, sir?
I was trying to look it up as he was talking a little bit here, and I see they're rumoring Anthony Lynn maybe could be his offensive coordinator. I don't care that the Jaguars have Urban Meyer. I think it was like he said, it's a name hire. It's close to Gainesville, like that. It's a draw. It's a relevancy play. Like, I know we're the Jaguars, but look at who we got. Urban Meyer. We got the first pick. Like, we got all this cap space. So obviously, after they spent the past 3 years dumping off all of the best talent they have for picks and just really sometimes for nothing, now they're trying to be relevant again. I get it. Urban Meyer doesn't strike me as an offensive genius, especially the way that the NFL is trending. And as we see the teams that are being successful, and if you look at the championship games we have that I'm sure we'll talk about soon, the Chiefs, offensive genius. The Packers, Matt LaFleur, what he's done with the offense this year has renovated it and made it more, it's a new age offense out there. The successful teams like the Bills, the way that they've been scheming up things for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. You think about teams that are doing well in the NFL, the one common denominator is you have a creative play caller who's willing to try some things offensively. Urban Meyer sounds like an old guy who's coached a bunch of young guys his whole life, like you said, and had control. I don't think he matters as much as who he gets in there as the offensive coordinator and then what they do with that first pick. I'm okay with them getting Justin Fields. I think it will be silly for them to get him with the first pick. Maybe you trade down, get a couple more picks, and then you make it play like that. But I want to see what the OC hire is. Then I'll have a better grasp on what that is.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's crazy, you guys, because if we remove ourselves 2-3 years ago, Jacksonville, that defense, what they were doing, they was one of the top premier teams in the league. Now look, Jalen Ramsey's gone, and it's a whole to use your word so greatly, Theo, combust. Look what's going on in Jacksonville. How quickly the tides change. It's crazy.
It was like
that's how it is.
I remember that vividly, though. I remember vividly Jalen Ramsey standing up with the microphone, yelling that they going to the Super Bowl. Like, I just, like, what happened? What happened since that? So quick.
Blake Bortles is what happened.
And then the Browns took over.
Blake Bortles is what happened.
Man, imagine if the Jaguars had taken Lamar Jackson like people wanted them to do in that draft. I forgot who they picked instead of him. I'm not sure if it panned out or not, but like, imagine if the Jaguars had drafted Lamar Jackson and held on to their pieces. They were a quarterback away for like 2 years, and then they just blew it all up.
Literally a quarterback away for 2 years.
Let's have a little fun. Let's have a little fun because you just gave me something. I can never get this man. I keep saying to my right because he's on the right of my Zoom, but I keep wanting to do this. But anyways, I can never get Tristan to answer this question. Who's the best number 3? I can never get him to answer that question. Let's see if I can get you guys in that same sense to answer this question. What's the worst quarterback pickup in the draft, trading up or trading down? The Bears and what they did with Mitchell Trubisky? Because you let go of Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Or Lamar Jackson not going to Jacksonville so you can keep Blake Bortles.
Nah, the Chicago one, everyone should be fired. Yeah. Everyone should be fired that had any business in that draft room. I'm going to say that forever. Everyone should be fired for that. I still don't understand. I still don't understand what they saw between Mitchell Trubisky and Deshaun Watson. A champion, a project, proven 3-year starter, 1-year wonder. I don't know what they saw. I don't know what they saw.
I don't know what they saw either.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. I mean, it was just, and I think the thing that's crazy is that they had at the time that they drafted him, right? They had the offensive line, they had receivers. So I think Alshon Jeffrey was still there. So you had receivers, you had the offensive line, you had the run game, and your defense was decent. You've literally wasted this franchise's chance in the playoffs by taking Mitchell Trubisky. Like, they literally have wasted it. It's unreal.
Not to mention, Theo, if they would have got Deshaun Watson, they were moments away from getting Khalil Mack. And imagine that team.
Man.
That might be the team. They might be playing this weekend. They might be playing this weekend. The way that defense is, they might have been playing this weekend. I'm telling you, it's just the only thing that's worse. The only thing I saw, well, not even worse, because that's the worst. The only thing I see that was more disrespectful than that was the Packers taking Jordan Love in the first round and not trying to give Aaron Rodgers another receiver. That's the only other thing I think was more disrespectful is that. I mean, people really had it where Deshaun was supposed to be a Chicago Bear. Like, people were trying to say what peacoat, what scarf he got to wear, you know what I'm saying, coming to Chicago. They had his whole outfit set up and everything ready to go for Chicago, where he going to go eat the deep dish pizza, it was all planned. And so then when we saw Chicago move up, I remember watching that draft. And we heard Chicago Bears is traded up to the second pick. We're like, all right, boom. Deshaun Watson, no question. Boom, there you go. And they said Mitchell Trubisky. The commentators were shocked. They were just like, all right, let's talk about Mitchell Trubisky.
It don't even sound good.
It was unreal. And I just feel like everyone should have been fired from that. If I'm the owner, everyone should have been fired from that draft. Everybody. Okay. I don't care.
So the answer to that question from both of y'all, we're gonna go with that one as being the worst.
It'll always be that.
I think it was worse. Also because they gave up assets to draft the worst quarterback. Yes. The Jaguars, I can't even remember what they did with that pick. They might have gotten a solid defensive player, an old lineman or something. Like the Bears traded up to make a bad move.
You traded up?
They were like, whoa, can you get out of my way, please? I'm trying to ruin my franchise. Like, give me some space.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
That's
exactly.
bad.
I'm trying to sabotage this here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Man.
A lot of talks about him this offseason.
It's gonna get real interesting.
Could it be Cam Newton country? I've been hearing that, but we don't.
I've been hearing that. We'll see.
We don't know. Divisional round. Rams 18, the Packers 32. Jared Goff 21-27, 174 yards, 1 touchdown. The bad man, Aaron Rodgers 23-26, 296 yards. He had 2 of them things, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones 14 carries, 99 yards, 1 touchdown. Devontae Adams 9 receptions, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. The Ravens and the Bills. This was I knew that this wasn't going to go the Ravens' way when the golden toe couldn't make 2. Anyways, Ravens 3, Bills 17, which I didn't even think they beat them that bad. It only took 1 play. Lamar Jackson, 14-24, 162 yards, 1 interception. He did leave this game with a concussion. On the ground, 9 carries, 34 yards. Josh Allen, 23-27, 206 yards, 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs, you dig the hole right to the end zone, baby. 8 receptions, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. Chiefs, Browns. They said these were the same old Browns. They kept it moving they stuck it as long as they could. But the same results for the Browns. They lose this one, 22-17 against the Chiefs. Kansas City will host AFC Championship for 3rd straight season. Baker Mayfield, 23-37, 204 yards. He threw a touchdown. He did throw a pick. On the ground, 3 carries, 11 yards. Nick Chubb, 13 carries, 69 yards. Patrick Mahomes, he did leave this game with the concussion. 21-30, 255 yards, 1 touchdown. Then we go to Bucks and Saints. Tom Brady, 18-33, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette, 17 carries, 63 yards, 5 receptions, 44 yards, 1 touchdown for throwing. Drew Brees, 19-34, 134 yards, 1 touchdown. That man threw 3 picks, y'all. That was sad to watch. Alvin Kamara, 18 carries, 85 yards. The Bucks beat the Saints 30-20. This wasn't even a stat, but I decided to put him on here anyway. Michael Thomas, 0. They've been talking about you a lot this week, buddy. They saying you ain't that guy. That everybody thinks that you that guy. My first question as we get through the divisional round. Theo first, Tristan second. We got to get in more serious talk before we talk about the X's and O's. 2 premier quarterbacks in this league went down to concussions in this round. Concussion protocol and paying attention to it. I think we've paid attention to the coronavirus enough this year. We also remember with these 2 games that there are certain things as concussions in the NFL. How was it to watch these 2 guys experience this? The 2 premier ones in the league, MVPs, our faces. We don't even know if Patrick Mahomes is going to play next week.
I start off by saying I think I know Patrick Mahomes is going to play next week. I mean, I know we don't technically know, but I mean, the NFL, they want to make money. They want to, get eyes on the televisions. Nobody's watching Bills Chiefs when it's Patrick Mahomes. It's like, that's a tough sell. So I think Mahomes, it's a 5-step process technically they're going through. I think the 5 steps will be, hey, Mahomes, you cool on playing? And he's going to say, yeah, and they're going to get him out there. There were reports. There were reports I saw that came out today that said he's doing well in it. I guess he passed the steps that he's gone through so far. So, obviously, concussion is a very serious thing. NFL putting on the show that they care more about it. So I'm glad they're at least putting on that show. Mahomes is going to play. I did hate to see for Lamar Jackson that after the pick 6, after that terrible snap, and doesn't it seem like every time Lamar's in the playoffs, his teammates just play worse? He doesn't do so well, but his team, Justin Tucker missing kicks, the drop passes, the center snapping it over his head twice in the game. Like, what is going on in Baltimore?
When the Ravens lose in the playoffs, they lose bad. It's no close game. It looks horrible.
And to see him not get a chance, though, that's what I was going to say. After the ball snaps over his head, he runs back to save it. Just to see him go out like that, and everybody has that whole theory of Lamar Jackson can't play from behind. He had did it in the first round against the Titans. I wanted to see him at least have a chance against the Bills, even though it was going to be a tough climb. To see him go out with the concussion was just, like, heartbreaking. Like, I didn't even want to watch the rest of that game. It was like, dang.
Yeah. 2 premier quarterbacks, Tristan, 2 concussions. How you feel about it?
I agree with Theo in the fact that Patrick Mahomes is going to play. Even if they do something illegally and just say he's clear when he's really not clear, the man is going to play football on Sunday.
They're going to give him the Men in Black test? They're going to
he's going to play. Don't worry. But yeah, I felt that for Lamar. And the thing about Lamar Jackson, I knew it was coming because I was like, as soon as I watched that game and he went out, I said the next day is going to be rough for him. Yeah. As far as like all the commentary that's going to be put out there, because it's just he won the playoff game, got the monkey off his back, got a playoff win and all that stuff, and now coming into this, now it's like, well, can he win the bigger games? Can he get you to the Super Bowl? His style of play isn't and it's just like, come on, man, like look what he's dealing with. I keep saying this all the time. If you're not going to fire Greg Roman, okay, because there's people saying, well, you can't fire him. Okay, if you're not going to fire him, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him on a plane. And I'm going to send him to Buffalo. And I'm going to make him sit down with those coordinators and those coaches there in Buffalo. And I'm like, tell me what y'all did for Josh Allen. Because that's what it is. It's the same thing, except you have one staff that knows how to develop properly, and you have one staff that does not. It's the same issue. And I'm just like, Greg Roman, you cannot be so dependent on Lamar's physical gifts as an athlete and not try to develop him and expand the playbook. We're tired of seeing the jet sweeps. We're tired of seeing the bunch formation. We're tired of seeing 1 wide receiver, 2 tight ends, and 1 running back. We're tired of seeing those things. We want to see some spreads. We want to see 3 wideouts, 1 back. We want to see 4. We want to see Lamar Jackson in empty backfield shotgun and having all these receivers flying around. That's what we want to see. And you have to expand his ability. You cannot leave him in this one stagnant place. He did the same thing with the 49ers, and that's why Colin Kaepernick got stagnant. And honestly, the Ravens organization did the same thing with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was a one-trick pony. He had that one great year. You paid him all this money. All these weapons went away. Because you couldn't get Jacoby to come back. Anquan Bolden was retiring. All these people were going away, and then you left him with Joe Flacco, and you thought Joe Flacco could do this thing for us again. And you realized he was a one-trick pony. If you didn't give him a legitimate deep threat, he couldn't do anything else for you because you didn't expand him and his ability to play the quarterback position in the way that he should. So all it was just chuck it, just chuck it, just chuck it. That doesn't work. You have to be able to expand it. These defense coordinators are smart. They're going to figure you out. They're going to figure out your system. You keep relying on Lamar Jackson to save the day. It cannot happen. You need to revamp that offensive line. We knew when Yonder retired, we knew that was going to be an issue. Revamp that offensive line. Hollywood Brown, guess what? He's not Hollywood. Okay, he's somewhere below. He's somewhere on the strip. He ain't in a Hollywood realm. Okay, Marquise Brown. He is not a legit number one receiver. You need to get him a number one receiver. I like Dobbins. I think he's going to be solid. So you need to revamp the offensive line, get him another receiver that can run the route tree properly, and then you use Marquise Brown as the deep threat. You already got Mark Andrews. That's cool, but you're going to run him in the dirt just like you did with Tom Heap, just like you did with Dennis Pitta. You run your tight ends to the ground until they're no more good. You cannot win that way. So, yes, I put some responsibility on Lamar Jackson, but I put a bigger responsibility on that coaches because one thing we've seen between year 1, year 2, and year 3 of Lamar Jackson is that if you give him a task in the offseason to improve on something, he's going to improve. We've seen it. Anything you give him, he slowly keeps improving. So you got to throw it at him and say, hey, we want you to be like this. Because if he can figure it out to be, I'm not looking for him to be Tom Brady. I'm not looking for him to be Drew Brees. I'm not looking for him to be Peyton Manning. But if he can get to a certain level passing the ball, there's going to be no answer for him. There's going to be nothing you can do to stop him. But you have to develop him into that and stop relying on his athleticism. He can't hold like that.
It's crazy because a couple of years ago, when he took over for Flacco, it was this, oh, we got this big thing. He's an explosion. Look what's going on in Baltimore. Nobody knew how to handle him. These defenses were shot. And then you saw the next year when they was like, okay, we done already watched the film when we know what to do now. So then we turn back around this year and it was no growth. Everybody else is plateauing around Lamar Jackson, where he's the one that's a scapegoat for the person. They were talking about him plateauing earlier this year. And it was like, no, this man is the same guy. And if you think that he's not dedicated to winning, if you watch that game, there was so many parts of him running for his damn life to the point where he was backing up, not even knowing if it was a defensive guy around him. And then he throws the Dobbins, he misses the first catch. He was keeping plays alive. Hey, Theo, if all of these young black quarterbacks, these read option quarterbacks, we're talking about them, and my favorite being Russell Wilson. And if we watch the evolution of Russell Wilson's game and what he just does in his own right, as far as being able to know when to get the hell out of the way and slide, knowing how to use his body, knowing when to turn it on to extend for the Seahawks. And if he had that time, and technically, if he had the weapons to throw the ball down the field. But if we're looking at his game, how much can Lamar Jackson benefit from looking at a guy like that? If he's on this Ravens team,
I think looking at other quarterbacks like a Russell Wilson, like a Kyler Murray, who's able to get out of the way and get down, even though Kyler is younger than him. I'm trying to think of people that have done it before him. I think those guys, as much as that would help Lamar Jackson in his development, I think the biggest thing that could help him is kind of like what Tristan was saying, like, get me a Stephon Diggs, get me a Tyreek Hill, get me a DeAndre Hopkins, get me a Devontae Adams. Like, look at all of the other great quarterbacks. And then for Deshaun Watson, he did it this past year without one, but he's Deshaun Watson. He's a different guy.
A different animal. Mm-hmm.
All of these top great quarterbacks, they have top receivers or top weapons around them. Like Drew Brees had Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara to throw it to. You're just not giving the guy a lot to work with. And then that's not only are you relying on his athleticism because you're not as creative as a play caller and as a person that develops quarterbacks, but now we're also relying on his athleticism because, well, well, we ain't got nothing else on the offensive side. Like, what we gonna do? Like, and that's another thing too. Like guys like Baker Mayfield, guys like even Josh Allen are getting elevated to a certain level because of what people are doing around them with their weapons and with their play call. And like Baker Mayfield is nothing without the play action, but he's looking like a star right now because of everything else that's going on around him. Like these guys are being elevated because of the talent around him, whereas Lamar Jackson is having to carry that offense like he did at Louisville, which he should not be doing anymore because this is the NFL.
You know what they should do? You know what they should do? They should call up Atlanta and all those weapons Matt Ryan got to do nothing in a dome with. Julio, career suicide. Why did you take the money? You could have went somewhere else. Get all the.
You already know how I feel about Matt Ryan. I'm just.
Well, he overrated. But
I've never seen a guy that have this many weapons in his career.
Every time we talk about Matt Ryan, you sounding like Chris Collinsworth. This is a guy.
Theo, like when you think about, like Theo, when you really think about it, he's never in his entire, 12, 13 years in his 13-year career, he's never not had a legitimate number one receiver. Never.
He's pampered.
Never. Sure. He's always had weapons out the wazoo. Always. Arthur Blank is not shy with that checkbook. He is always giving them weapons. And to not even have a Super Bowl appearance.
Well, he had one.
We had one.
He disappeared in it. He disappeared in it. He disappeared in. It
was as if he wasn't even there. So, I mean, it's just.
Y'all disrespectful.
People, look, listen, all I'm saying is this. I tell my dad all the time. Had Michael Vick not had them issue with them dogs, and he was able to get those kind of receiving weapons, he'd have got Atlanta one. He'd have got
him at least one. How many covers of Madden?
He probably would have had 2 more covers.
At least one more.
Yeah, he was a different beast.
He liked that.
Yeah.
If we're looking at Bucks Saints, Bucks beating the Saints 30-20. Beautiful showing of Drew Brees and Tom Brady at the end of that game, embracing each other. Him throwing to Drew Brees' sons, who are actually Brady fans. In one word from each of you, if this is the last time we see Drew Brees, forgetting the 3 picks, everything, all that extra stuff. I don't want to ride out like this. Everybody else don't want you to ride out like this. He was in the game. Things happened. That happened. But if we don't see Drew Brees again, from what they're saying this may be, in one word, how would you describe him in his career?
We talking strictly football, right? Because I got some.
Strictly football. Strictly football.
We're going to leave that out.
Strictly football. Strictly football.
Strictly football. Okay, if we're going to talk strictly football with Drew Brees.
I'm intrigued to know.
I
knew where he was going.
Yeah, not Bounty Gate. I'm talking stand for my flag gate, but we'll leave that alone. We're gonna leave that alone.
Oh yeah.
I would say
everybody got somebody in their family who's in the army always thinks that whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I'm gonna leave him alone. I'm gonna let him.
Not about the flag, you fool. Anyway.
I would say an inspiration. For a few reasons. I say inspirational career. Because of his comeback, because of how the NFL gave up on him, the Chargers gave up on him, they thought his career was done, and he created a whole second career, which I think is something that some of these quarterbacks or even players of all sports and positions can look at and say, I can model myself after that. Like, what did he do? Like, what was his mental makeup? How was he able to take something that everybody thought was broken and literally have a whole second career that could have, like, I feel like his Saints career on its own might be able to stand alone as a Hall of Fame career, which is pretty impactful. Yeah. And then also what he meant to New Orleans and what he meant to not just that city and that football franchise, but like post Katrina, it was an inspiration for a lot of those folks who were trying to bounce back from a very traumatic experience. So that's the word I stick with.
Hey, you've been in Houston. You lived in Houston. Yeah. A lot of people from Katrina resurfaced in Houston.
Yeah.
Is there Oh wow.
My
Wow,
family. So
wow, wow.
most of my family's from New Orleans. My mom from New Orleans, and my dad's from New Orleans. I'm from Houston though. They
You
came to
had fun
Houston.
at that convention, didn't you? We're not
Oh,
gonna
it's
go
lit.
there.
It's
That's
lit.
after hours. But anyways, is there still the base that's in Houston when it comes to New Orleans? How big is it? And
Oh,
how
it's deep. We have, I mean, behind Texans fans, Saints fans are a close second. Everywhere you turn is Saints fans because of all the people from New Orleans, or just the fact that you got to remember, like, when I was growing up, there were no Texans. Like, my generation was between Oilers and Texans as a kid. So there
yeah.
are a lot of fans that were like Cowboys or maybe Saints. The Saints were terrible, so it wasn't a lot of Saints fans that were from Houston. But we have a strong tie to New Orleans, so I mean, there are restaurants and bars dedicated to the Saints in Houston. When the Saints play, like a lot of times bars and restaurants will host like Saints watch parties just like they will a Texans watch party. So that's the culture is deep out there for sure.
Tristan, Drew Brees, one word.
Um, I don't even think I have one word. I think three words is Hall of Fame. I
Always
mean,
one of
hey, listen, hey, listen. I mean, what he had the passing yards record. He had the touchdown record for a little bit of time, but Tom Brady's still playing, so that's just going to keep going up.
Wait till he's 60.
The percentages, completion percentages, um, touchdown interception ratio. I mean, he's a bona fide Hall of Famer, and I share the same sentiments with Theo. Just with what he had to take on after Katrina to really come in there. Him and Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush doesn't get enough credit for really being beacons of light and hope for that city, for all of Louisiana, really, and also just as far as his career, because I really felt that the Chargers were a little premature when they got Phillip Rivers and just basically casted Drew Brees out because I mean it was a bad injury. I mean I remember watching the game and I remember seeing his shoulder like go behind his head. It was nasty, but for that happened and then for him to end up being the same when he should have been a Dolphins fans. That was one of Nick Saban's mess ups. He should have been a Dolphin, but for him to come into New Orleans and then win the Super Bowl, only a few years after the Katrina disaster, it was amazing. And if it is his last game, I totally understand it leaves a sour taste because of how it ended with those turnovers. But I just really hope if it is his last game, that Saints fans gives him the proper send off that he deserves. Um, they'll definitely get him a statue in front of that stadium. He deserves all the works for Saints because before him, the Saints were irrelevant. I mean, the only quarterback that you really could mention as far as being decent was Archie Manning. Like that was it. You had like the Aaron Brooks of the world and all these guys. Like Archie Manning was the only quarterback in New Orleans Saints history that you had respect for, other than Drew Brees. And then Drew Brees comes in and does what he does. I mean, yeah, Hall of Fame for sure, first ballot.
The age disparity in this year's playoffs, you had a 27-year-old, 24-year-old, you had a 40-something-year-old, you had a 37-year-old. We got one 40-year-old still kicking. So to see Drew Brees, if he leaves the game, Theo and Tristan, how big is that to see that he finally said, I mean, playing with cracked ribs, then 2 weeks, they didn't know he had it. Then he was playing with him. Then it finally caught up to him. He's saying goodbye. How big is it to finally be able to take your mind and say, I'm done? Especially when you got a guy named Brady still kicking it, baby.
I think his wife played a huge part in that. If it is indeed his last time, because he hasn't officially said it, but if it is, based on, like you said, Mikhail, based on how it looked at the end of the game, him going to the locker room, looking back and it just looked like it was the end. But I really feel like his wife had a big part to play in it because you got the cracked ribs and a punctured lung at your age, and you got all these kids. I know for sure she's looking at him like, hey, what more you got to do? You have a Super Bowl. You're going to go into the Hall of Fame. You got all these records. Like as an individual, there is nothing more for you to do. There's nothing more you can do. The only thing that was missing from you was what? A regular season MVP? That was really it. And that's because you were in the era of Peyton Manning and Brady and Aaron Rodgers. It was kind of hard for you to grab one. Same thing with Ben. That's why Ben ain't got one, because you were in the era of Brady, Manning, and Rodgers. Like, it's hard. So what more is there for you to prove? There isn't. So, I mean, I think if his wife okayed it, he'd come back. But I think his wife was like, we almost lost you.
We know best, baby. Theo, is it true? The power to say goodbye.
Yeah, I think the power to say goodbye also coincides with the lack of power in his arm right now. So I think you can look at both sides of it. Like, it's nice that, if his wife and his family wants him to be back home with the kids and all of that and not be a gladiator dying on the field. But also, when they got to bring in Jameis Winston to throw the ball 30-plus yards, when they got to ride Taysom Hill for these trick plays and whatnot, like, you start to wonder how much left is there. And then you'd have to go through a whole nother offseason to come back and play to only, the Saints have been losing in heartbreaking fashion for the past 4 years. So do you really want to put yourself through the grind of an offseason, another regular season, just to get to the playoffs, to only know that you got this curse that it feels like is on your franchise in the post? I don't think you want to do that again. That's tough.
A minute 55. Shout out to the referees for that one. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what he does with his post career, and if this is goodbye. I'm saying it's goodbye. I'm just waiting for the statement. Yeah. So if he's saying this is goodbye, everybody thinks he's gonna be a personality, but all the people that have personalities are the guys that we didn't even think would have personality. Who knew Tony Romo would be that damn good?
Who knew?
I love Tony Romo. I hated him in the Cowboys. Beautiful. Yeah. Love him on NFL. Love him on Fox.
That's a second Hall of Fame career right there with Tony Romo.
Yes.
Yes. AARP still staying alive, baby. Put it on your knees, do whatever you got to do, bust it down, whatever you got to do. Bucks, Packers. You'll also have Chiefs, Bills. Is the picking on this as self-explanatory as some people are saying it is? Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you. I'm not picking because I have a dream Super Bowl game. Oh. And for the last 2 years, I have jinxed myself and it has not come to pass. So I'm just going to wait and see what the football guys decide. But I have a dream game. And I just don't want to say it out loud because I don't want to.
What a great weekend to have a dream.
Hey, listen, shout out to my man MLK, rest in peace, baby. I have a dream game.
Okay.
And I want to see it one day. So I'm just gonna wait.
I didn't know you want to see the Bills and the Bucks that bad in the Super Bowl, man. But you know what?
Yes, I want to see the Bucks and the Bills. I want to see it. I want to see the Bucks and the Bills in the Super Bowl. Absolutely.
Well, can we get a pick from you, Theo? And while you're at it, because we're not going to do this, but we may not see you again. We got to see you again. But in the meantime, I need your Super Bowl pick too.
It's so hard to go back to back in the NFL. No, I'm going back my pick. I just want to preface it with it is so hard to go back to back in the NFL. Because when you think about Patrick Mahomes right now, he also has the turf toe issue bothering him, not just the concussion. It's such a physical sport. But I got to go Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going Chiefs Packers.
Okay.
Like Tristan was scared to say, I'm going Chiefs Packers.
I don't want to jinx it.
And I'm going Chiefs over Packers. It would be incredible to see Aaron Rodgers get another Super Bowl. I think this will be a whole decade removed from his past one because I think he won it in 2009, right?
Yep, it would be.
So a whole decade of football without one, and then to come back in this next decade and get one, that would be pretty incredible. But I think Patrick Mahomes goes back to back and continues to solidify himself as who will become the greatest football player ever.
We talk about Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Matt LaFleur. Now, granted, what he's been able to do, he hasn't had a lot to do with Aaron Rodgers. But when you look at Aaron Rodgers, you've been playing these games for so long. So to continue to reinvent yourself, to reinvent your passion for it. Aaron Rodgers took off his helmet. He's growing his hair. He out here looking like Jesus. He looked like he having fun. How much has Matt LaFleur been able to come in and be a breath of fresh air? Shout out to to Mike McCarthy in Dallas land.
I think with Matt LaFleur, like you said, it's not like he had to do anything with Aaron Rodgers. You just took the handcuffs off, basically. That's really all he did. He just kind of took the handcuffs off and unleashed them. Was like, look, man, we're going to use you for everything you got. And when you look at Mike McCarthy's system compared to LaFleur, that's really what it was. And what he did was now create things that brought interest to Aaron Rodgers. Like I remember when they talked about it before when they said Aaron Rodgers for a few years led the league in throwaway passes. It's because Aaron Rodgers used to be so frustrated with what the play call was. He's like, look, I'm just going to stop because I don't like that. That's really how frustrated he would be. It was crazy. He didn't like it, but now it looks fun. And watching it, it looks amazing. All these motions and all this stuff, it looks great. And I think I forgot what game it was this season. And this is when I knew the NFL was in trouble. He did this one. He threw a touchdown pass. The entire team went to the camera and celebrated. And then he came at the end and did this. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's over for everybody. I said it's over. Once you see him celebrating like that, it's over for everyone. It's a wrap.
Well, it's a wrap on this one. I'm going to close the book. Theo, my man, it was a pleasure. Tell the world where they can find you, because you're constantly working. Tell them where they can find you, where they can see your stuff and all this good stuff.
Of course. So I actually anchor the sportscast here in West Palm Beach for WPTV and Fox 29. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I got a lot of airtime. So if you tune in and watch those night shows, you'll see me talking some sports, as well as you can catch us on ESPN West Palm's radio station. If you have the ESPN app, all you got to do is go to the we got this saying, it's one app. It's one app. You already got it. It's already in your phone. You jump on the app. If you go to live radio, scroll all the way down because of alphabetical order, not because of priorities, but ESPN West Palm all the way at the bottom. So if you check out that, we have a few shows that every now and then I'll be jumping in and on to do some co-hosting and having some fun and talking some sports.
Cool. Well, this was fun. We appreciate your time. We got to have you back. Hey, listen, how you people call my people? I ain't got to call you no more. Whenever you're ready, just pick up the phone and call me, baby. Episode 109, Tristan. We will be back next week. It's going to be a hard one because it will also be, can you believe it's been 1 year since we've lost Kobe Bryant. So we will also have to remember him. I'm going to say it like I say it every week, and I don't care if it does not rhyme, it's still mine. I'm Mikkel, like Kevin McHale. Next week, 109, Tristan. Peace, America.
109. Peace.